Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video we've got a trade update and signing update video. We saw a couple of really big things we wanted to give the own video to, as we saw a minor prospect swap between Seattle and Philadelphia, a big long-term injury reserve trade between Montreal and San Jose, a goalie trade between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Calgary Flames have signed two players to long-term deals. We'll get to all the updates regarding all this stuff coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And don't forget to stay tuned for more videos coming out in the very near future. So as usual, here today, we've got a trade update video. We saw 3 trades that happened over the past week and a half. And we also saw 2 big signings that I haven't touched on yet that I want to touch on here in today's video. So we'll start with the 2 signings first. They were both concerning the Calgary Flames. The first one was with pending RFA center Connor Zary. Now, Zary was one of the top restricted free agents left on the market, along with guys like McTavish and Evangelista. Zary was a guy who last year had a pretty solid season in Calgary, and I was expecting to get signed. He finally did. He gets a 3-year contract extension, AAV of $3.775 million. Zary is 23 years old. He's a center, but can also play on the left side of things. He last year had a 13-goal, 27-point season in only 54 games. He was banged up a little bit last year after having 34 points in 63 games the year prior, so had he been completely healthy, probably could have pushed 40 to 50 points and probably could have pushed 20 goals, but due to injuries, that was a big concern there for Calgary last year. So 3 years at 3.775, I don't think is bad by any means. I think Zary's potential is a second-line center. Not sure if he'll be able to be a first-line center at the NHL level, but I think for sure he can be a second-line center. So to see him be signed for this much for the 3-year period is pretty good there for the Calgary Flames. I think Zary is going to continue to grow into a really solid second-line center, and if you look at some of the second-line centers on the market right now, getting him under $4 million is pretty gosh dang good. So I think it will still be an RFA at the end of this current contract, and I do think it's a really solid move there for the Flames to get Zary on a 3-year deal at under $4 million. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Zary hit 40 to 50 points this year and had a breakout season. So that's an interesting signing there, but the Flames have finally finished up their RFA business by signing Connor Zary to a new contract. And then the Flames gave a contract extension out to one of their promising young pieces in net. Dustin Wolf last year was one of the Calder Cup finalists, had a really good season. He's into a final year of a 2-year deal with the AAV of $850,000. Really solid guy. Looks like he's going to be a future Vezina level goaltender for the Calgary Flames. He wound up getting a 7-year contract extension, AAV of $7.5 million to remain with the Calgary Flames. Wolf is 24 years old. Of course, he's a goaltender. Last year played 53 NHL games for the Flames, putting up a 2.64 GAA and 910 save percentage. Looked really good for the Flames. The year prior, he had played in 17 NHL games, putting up a 3.16 GAA and 893 save percentage. Definitely a lot better numbers last year. He was the team starter last year. The team's only going to have Fedotov or Cooley as the backup, so I wouldn't be surprised if Wolf started around 60 games this year because of how bad their backup duo is. But I think this is a really good pickup here for the Flames. Like, Wolf was only going to keep on getting better. Like, I mean, I think he got 1 Vezina vote in his rookie season, so he was only going to get better. 7 years of $7.5 million puts him in the upper echelon of goaltenders contracts, and I think he's definitely worth the money. This guy is going to be great for a long period of time, and I think if he can continue to get better, 7 years at $7.5 million will look like a steal eventually. So a really interesting sign there from the Flames, but they have locked up their solid young goaltender and Dustin Wolf on a 7-year contract. So that's a beautiful piece of work there for the Flames to get Wolf on a longer term deal. So very interesting, big signings there from the Flames. Next, going over to the 3 trades we saw. So we'll start with a prospect swap that ended a 45-day break in trades, or 44-day break. Like, it was a long layoff. The entire month of August, there were no trades. The end of July, we saw, I think it was the Canucks trading with someone, and that was the last trade we saw. So it had been a while since we saw some trades. So we've gotten 3 trades over the past week and a half, which is fantastic. They're not huge ones here, but I'm going to talk about them in the separate video here. So first, we saw a prospect swap between the Flyers and the Kraken, as the Flyers acquired Tucker Robertson from the Seattle Kraken for John Randall Avon. Now, Robertson's 22 years old. He's a center prospect in the final year of his deal ZLC, AV of $870,000. He was a 2022 4th round pick, 123rd overall. This past year had 9 points in 38 AHL games after having 4 goals and 14 points in 13 ECHL games. So he had a pretty decent season in his first full pro season at the NHL level. So he looked pretty good. And I think Robertson eventually could challenge like a bottom 6 role. So that's not a bad pickup there for Philadelphia, swapping Avon for Robertson. For the Kraken, Avon was an undrafted player in the Philadelphia Flyers organization. He's 22 years old, so he's a tiny bit older than Robertson. He's also in the final year of his DLC, AAV of $800,000. He's a center who can also play on the left wing. He had 7 goals and 17 points in 60 games last year in the AHL, after he had 9 goals and 18 points in 65 games the year prior. So both these guys are recently coming off of junior seasons. They've had a couple of seasons at the pro level now, and I just think it was a fresh start. Like, I think Robertson has the higher potential given the fact he was drafted and he's a little bit younger than Avon, but I think both guys had the potential to be solid bottom 6 guys. So a very interesting prospect swap, but Avon is now a prospect in Seattle, Robertson a prospect in Philadelphia, so very interesting note there. Next, we saw a very interesting trade, one that a lot of people expected. We talked about this in a couple of recent videos, how the Montreal Canadiens after September 1st were very likely to trade Carey Price to get out of the LTIR cap situation. Well, they have officially done that. I think it was about a week ago now. The Montreal Canadiens moved Carey Price and his $10.5 million LTIR contract to the San Jose Sharks, along with a 2026 5th round pick for young prospect defenseman Gannon Larourke. Now, if you look at this trade for the Sharks, this is a very smart move. They get an extra 5th round pick. They could use that as trade fodder. They could draft someone next year. It's Montreal's pick, so it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of the 4th round. So it's just an added draft pick that they could use. They can maybe package it to trade up in the draft. Like, who knows what that's going to do. They also could carry Price. Now, Price isn't going to be very much value to the Sharks as just himself, but with Price being a long-term injury reserve, they can place him on just injury reserve, which would then get the Sharks a little closer to the cap ceiling, so they'd be able to make a lot more moves. We know the Sharks have a lot of pending UFAs that could trade this year's trade deadline. Alex Wennberg, Mario Ferraro, Timothy Liljegren, some of the recent guys they just signed, like I think it's John Klingberg, as well as Nick Leddy. Like, they have a lot of pending UFAs that could trade this year's trade deadline, and they weren't going to be able to do that unless they had some contract to offset the money that would be going out, and acquiring Price will be able to allow them to do so. So that's a very smart move there from the Sharks, because even though Price is not going to help them on the ice, it might be able to help them get some more draft picks and make some more trades at the trade deadline. So that's a very smart move there from the San Jose Sharks. For the Habs get out of LTIR, which is a very smart move there from the Canadiens. It will allow them to accrue more cap space, to have more space to play with at the trade deadline. It costs them a 5th round pick. That's not overly bad. The Habs are a team that seems to be going for it this year, trying to improve after making the playoffs last year. They get Larourke in return. Not a bad pickup here. He's entering the final year of his DLC, has an $835,000 cap hit. He's a 22-year-old right shot defensive prospect. Last year didn't play at the AHL level for the San Jose Sharks. The year prior only had 2 points in 9 games. So I think Larourke at best can be maybe a 6-7 defenseman in a couple of years' time, but he's not going to be anything important for the Montreal Canadiens this upcoming season. So very interesting note there, but the Habs got a prospect from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for the Carey Price contract and a 5th round pick, a deal in which I do think helps both teams because it gives Montreal a little bit more cap space to use at the trade deadline, and it also gives the Sharks a little more cap flexibility to move off of contracts at the trade deadline. So very interesting note there. And we saw one more trade I want to break down here today for you guys. It was between the Flyers and the Jackets, a Metro Division trade, and involving a goaltender, as the Philadelphia Flyers trade Ivan Fedotov to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 2026 6th round pick. So for the Flyers, makes some sense. They just signed Vladar. They have Urson. Fedotov was probably going to be placed on waivers and not be at the NHL level anyways. They'll probably have to start at the AHL level, so they get rid of him. Makes complete sense given the fact they have Urson and they have Vladar, and they also have a younger guy like Kolosov still in their system. They get a 6th round pick back. It's not a huge return, but it's a decent return, something that they could use if they somehow go on a run and maybe are in a playoff spot. Maybe they use it to trade up at the draft. Maybe they just draft someone with it, but it's at least some more draft capital for someone who was potentially maybe going to be lost on waivers, or at least be an AHL level player this upcoming season. So not a bad pickup here for Philadelphia. When it's over to Columbus's side, you can see why they might make this deal. Now they have Greaves and Merzlikins as their 2 goaltenders going into the season, but there's been a lot of talk that maybe the Jackets might want to make some sort of a goaltending move. It sounds like the Jackets' current plans to have Fedotov be placed on waivers and be sent down to the minors. Now he's making $3.275 for this upcoming season. He'll be a UFA at the end of the current season. So like I said, if it doesn't work out, they can walk away from him as UFA. It's not a bad gamble there from the Jackets. If Greaves or Merzlikins don't look overly good, Fedotov's playing really well at the AHL level to start the season, they can easily call him up. Maybe he does well as like a solid tandem. Maybe they re-sign him. So not exactly sure how this will work out. He's 28 years old. He's a goaltender. Last year, coming off a season where he had 3.15 GA and 880 save percentage in 26 games for Philadelphia, just wasn't an overly great goaltender. So I think if they start him at the minors, have him play a couple solid games, and then maybe call him up later on, that could be a really solid move there for the Jackets, and at least gives them some goaltending insurance in case guys like Merzlikins or Greaves don't do overly well to start the season. So I think this is a really good pickup here for the Jackets. Only cost them a 6th round pick, and if it doesn't work out, they can walk away from him as UFA at the end of the current season. So a very interesting swap there from the Jackets and the Flyers. But that's all I'm talking for today. I'll let you guys thoughts. Who do you think won those 3 deals? I think the Canadiens won the Price deal because they're able to get out of the Price contract. I think the Flyers won the Robertson deal because I do think Robertson has a higher ceiling than Avon, and I do think that the Jackets won the Fedotov deal because I do think Fedotov could be a really solid 3rd stringer for the Blue Jackets for this upcoming season. Might even be a little bit better value than giving up a 6th round pick. So I like all those moves, and I think the Zary and the Wolf contracts are both pretty good contracts there for the Flames. So that's my opinion on all of these. I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comment section below. What sort of deals do you think we could see next, and what do you think of these 3 deals that we just saw over the past week and a half, 2 weeks? That's all I'm going to talk for today. Remember to like this video, reflect to subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for more videos coming out in the very near future. I also do a blog talking about newsrooms, analysis, stuff like that. So check that out. I've linked that in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.